It will not be quick, and it will not be painless. This is what I was talking about. As the sea levels rise, you will see it coming. You will be able to walk away. But where will you go? Where will you go then? It's best to keep those bottles of sleeping pills handy, honestly. A couple of bottles of whiskey would be a good idea too. And as I mentioned, not for you, but for the people you love. I don't think your last memories, your last thoughts of being on this earth, I don't think you want them to be of watching those people that you love drown and being absolutely helpless to do anything about it. I don't think that's a memory any of us want to carry into whatever the next world is. Now, many years ago, a company called Raytheon built an experimental weather station called HAARP in Alaska. At that time, it was owned by the US government. It, of course, has since been sold to the British government. That's not a big surprise to any of us. Now, HAARP stands for High Atmospheric Auroral Research Project. And it was supposed to be a very low energy system, an experiment, hardly noticeable to anybody. The problem is when HAARP turns on, the entire northern continent power grid is sucked dry. You can actually see it in photographs from space from a satellite. The entire North American continent dims by 25% every time they turn HAARP on. That's a lot of power. What HAARP really is a high energy weapon with lots of applications. It uses things like hyperdimensional physics and lots of other big words by guys you may or may not have heard of, Nikola Tesla being, of course, the one we all know. Now, one of the aspects of using high energy, high frequency weapons like this is, of course, as always, mind control. The truth of the matter is you and I are just walking, talking, radio broadcasting and receiving stations. We're pieces of a worldwide computer system, which is made up of living organisms, again, you and me. And we're constantly communicating with each other. We communicate in verbal and nonverbal fashion, which we'll talk about later. So, objects of a high energy weapon, mind control, weather control, which we're seeing, of course, making earthquakes, earthquakes to order. We'll talk about several made-to-order earthquakes in episodes later. The ones in Japan, the ones in the South Pacific, the ones in China. These were followed by political threats that weren't taken seriously. The truth is, it's amazing what a couple of megawatts of energy broadcast at the correct frequency will do to living matter or to a dead rock. There's actually an international convention against building high energy weapons that are specifically designed to create earthquakes. All the countries in the world have signed it, except, of course, for the United States. Well, the masters know that they cannot stop the pieces of rock falling out of the sky and melting the South Pole. But they are hoping to stop the planet Earth from flipping. That should be entertaining. And so they have built several of these HAARP systems around the world and have installed them in interesting places. In Malta, for example, the population rose up against it, and to mollify the cattle, they gave away computers to the local schools. So I guess it is possible to raise up a population against the masters, but then you just give the natives trinkets and they settle right down. To help with the planetary defense system, the masters have been spraying the upper atmosphere of the Earth with barium and metal particles. Anything that these HAARP stations can bounce energy waves off of to stabilize the planet from flipping. And oh yeah, the particles in the atmosphere, they are, of course, lethal to us, to plant life, to animal life. But the masters are, at this point in time, very safe in their underground cities. And what military they have left is up in mountain compounds, so they're okay too. So, these little technical issues don't bother them. Again, please don't believe anything I say. Just look up in the sky above any major city. Those checkerboard patterns in the sky, made out of white trails of cloud. The masters have been adding the barium and metal particles into the fuel of jetliners. It's a neat trick. And what the jetliners don't cover, they actually have unmanned drones spraying this stuff in the sky as well. Oh, one little side effect of HAARP is that it kills things. It's right now small animals, birds, fish, and lately it's moved up to killing bigger things like whole herds of cattle. No doubt we are next. And again, we get back to the question of why? Well, it's because the masters have this technology, but they have no idea how to really use it. The people they hire are not top of the line for obvious reasons. You can't have top of the line people working for you because they're not cattle. They will ask questions. They will ask why. So not the highest quality servants they have at this point. It's kind of like giving a little girl a bazooka to play with. She can figure it out and use it, but but should she? The super rich, the politicians, their servants, and the military, which has now been customized to obey them, they're okay. They already control all the mountaintops in the United States, and they have tried to conquer as many countries around the world as they can for the same reason. They want the mountaintops. They're all settling in now. They have stolen all the money they could from us, and now they've left us to die. So what about us? Billions will die, slowly and horribly, by the rising of the seas and the drowning of the coastlines. Wars, naturally enough, will start breaking out, rioting at a level I doubt any of us can comprehend, just over food. And farmlands will start to drown, croplands will drown. Food will become the main issue for those of us who haven't been eaten by the sea yet, until we too die painfully, slowly, and quite horribly. Again, we here at the 2012 FAD have a plan, but it needs cash, and it needs cash now. By our estimate, 3.5 million US dollars invested with us today, and with you, will save 50 people, with enough supplies and equipment and infrastructure to have something to look forward to. It's not simply a question of, do you want to live? That's not the question. The question is, do you have something to live for? We have 12 people here, so that leaves space for 38 people of your own. But please, when you're counting heads, please remember, we still need to hire craftsmen, tradesmen, farmers, doctors. So that's where your counting should start. And again, remember, the goal here is not to live, just to live. Why bother? Do you have something to live for? Do you have someone to live for? Because that's everything. Trust me, I know. So, do you have anything to live for? But again, it's all up to you. Today is January 15th, 2011. We have 18 months to get cash in the bank, then into the ground, and time enough to tuck in and get comfy. What should have taken 20 years to evolve organically and become a part of the community, to become established, to become known, what should have taken 20 years, we now have 18 months to do. This should be $50 million, and it should be a worldwide project to scour the world for the best and the brightest. And when I say best and the brightest, I'm also talking about good people. But it really is up to you. We can do it, but not without the cash. Without the cash, yeah, get the sleeping tablets and get a couple of bottles of whiskey if you're lucky enough to have a doctor in the family. I'm sure she'll have enough drugs on hand to take care of those